live audio wrestling.
And let's go. We're now smoking with the best.
Welcome back. It is indeed the last second hour. And we still got title bout coming up. Jack Gallagher coming up as well. Questions, answers, all that stuff. But the questions that we are going to ask now will be answered.
It's our turn to ask questions.
By the editor of the Wrestling Observer newsletter, Dave Meltzer, is on the line. Hello, Dave.
Hey, how are you?
Doing very well, Dave. Dave, we just came off chatting about the CM Punk and all the developments that have come up this week in regards to it getting out, how much he was paid, and a little bit about the buy rate, at least an indication. With knowing that, do you believe that CM Punk will be fighting in UFC again?
You know, that's a really tough question because my gut would say no, but there's some really good reasons to say yes. I mean, from a business standpoint, the answer should be yes. But from a sports standpoint, the answer should be no. They don't need him. They did. I always think that back to the fact that they cut Kimbo when Kimbo could still draw for him. And so I think that he won't, but I wouldn't, you know, I mean, there's a lot of mileage in the sense of if you put him on like a free TV special, I think that it would be huge because, again, the pay-per-view did very well, but I think that there'd be even more value in a free TV special since he hasn't been on free TV in a fight yet.
And plus, if we look at the buy rates, Dave, and it does draw this, you know, an extra 200,000 buys or whatever. I mean, would they want him to go to somewhere like Bellator or competition? I would think they wouldn't want that.
Yeah, I would think the same thing because it's a lock that he'll get an offer from Bellator, and it's a lock that he'll help Bellator's ratings. So that's another reason to keep him, at least for one more fight. I mean, I don't think another pay-per-view fight will draw the amount of extra buys that this one would, but I think a free TV fight would do very well. And, you know, and also the thing with Bellator, too, is Bellator will have no compunction about finding a guy that will be a lot more of an even fight for him, whereas UFC, when you look back on it, UFC, they were trying for a win-win. Like, if Punk was good, I'm sure that they would have been very happy for Punk to win, but they picked a really marketable guy with the idea that, well, if Punk can't fight, we're going to at least make a star out of Mickey Gall. And with Bellator, you know, with Scott Coker, when he does celebrities, you know, I mean, it was never to build a star out of the opponent, it was to build a star out of the guy. So, you know, it wouldn't be I mean, you never know what would happen, but I don't think that he would get as tough of a fight.
Well, one thing we've just seen, though, is with Chael Sonnen signing with Bellator, John brought up the point that was interesting that Chael's contract with UFC was just gone at a certain point, and he was able to sign with Bellator. And that story hasn't been told yet of how that came about.
What, Chael's contract?
Yeah.
I was under the impression that, and you know, I don't know exactly. I got the impression that Chael was cut when he failed all those drug tests, that they released him from his contract. But it could be, you know, if not, then there's probably something else. But yeah, I mean, the thing is, that was because the Bellator signing came out of left field for me because I was just assuming Chael was going to come back to UFC. Mm-hmm. You know, he'd already, you know, started being drug tested and everything like that. And even though he said he wasn't going to come back, I mean, you don't put your name in for drug testing unless you're planning on coming back.
Yeah, we'd heard that a while ago as well. Let's flip over to wrestling here. New York Post article. You knew you had to go here, Dave. New York Post article saying TNA, who's going to own this thing? It had mentioned WWE or Sinclair with the possible interest in purchasing TNA. How much legitimacy was there to this New York Post article?
I don't know. Okay, so Sinclair definitely had talks with TNA, you know, months and months ago. I think we talked about it, you know, on the air, you know, about around when it was happening. But I haven't heard anything in a long time on it, and I don't know if they've come back to the table. The stuff that I've heard of two, you know, Billy Corgan and another offer, which I, you know, don't know exactly the participants, but I know I'm actually going to probably find out tomorrow because I know people who know. And you know, like, and they believe that they were the people. As far as WWE will buy the tape library, but it's not like WWE is going to buy them to keep them on TV as opposition. I don't see that happening at all. And I almost see it as like, it almost felt to me like it was a planted article in the sense of, you know, we're going to make the company look really good. And Billy Corgan could get publicity because of the Smashing Pumpkins and everything. So, you know, again, WWE, yeah, they're in. Of course, they'd be interested in the tape library with the network that they have and everything like that. And there are reasons for Sinclair to buy it, in the sense that if they were to buy it and get Ring of Honor, like the TD in India and the TD in the UK, and that's paying TV. The thing with TNA is TNA has the paying international TV, and they have a deal which is a barter deal, so to speak, with Pop. But that's a lot of exposure that TNA doesn't have. I mean, that Ring of Honor doesn't have. Yeah, ROH doesn't have. So there is value in Sinclair in buying this to expand ROH. And unlike with TNA, ROH can go and tour and make money because they can do that, and they can. They have revenue. They have other forms of revenue. The problem with TNA is that that's their only form of revenue, and they can't make money the way their company is structured right now. But I expect Billy Corgan to end up owning it relatively soon, and hopefully he'll make changes that'll turn the thing around.
Would one of those changes possibly be Alberto Del Rio? Because it sounds like they might be talking to Alberto, but with no money there and these problems, how do you pay this guy who's going to be expecting a big, fat check?
Yeah, well, I mean, that's the same thing exactly. They've been wanting him for a long time. I mean, Alberto, what's funny is Alberto, the first time he got fired, he didn't quit, he got fired. It was like super timing for him. Lucha Underground was willing to spend money. TNA was. He picked Lucha Underground. AAA was very ambitious. Now, it's like he quit, and I mean the landscape is so different because it's like, yeah, TNA would love to have him, but TNA needs to figure out a way to make some money to afford him. And in the same way, Lucha Underground, they're not a startup now. I mean, they're in several years, and they they have their own financial issues too.
And so what do you see? So does that just leave Mexico for Del Rio?
Well, he's working in AAA Big Show on October 2nd, and he'll do indies, and he's got some UK dates and things like that. But I expect somehow, some way, he's going to end up in TNA. That's just my gut.
Let's talk about his girlfriend. Paige spoke out finally this week and said she was not suspended for a drug test, but more so because she didn't get to the specified test on time. I'd like to know when USADA took over testing for the WWE. I've never heard of this before. Yeah. To me, there's got to be a lot more to this story that's just not out.
Yeah, I think there probably is. This is the way I heard the story. Okay, is that they went to because most of the time all their drug testing's done at TVs usually. Mm-hmm. Well, she's been injured, so sometimes, I mean, I know with Rey Mysterio, when he was injured, they would come to his house and test him from time to time, because they have to test everyone 4 times a year. So I think that when she was injured, they came to test her, and she wasn't home. I think she was in Texas with Alberto, actually. And she did eventually take the test. But, and again, I don't know how many days after, but it was more days after than I guess was acceptable. And so it was considered a failure in the sense that, they probably contact her and go, and again, I don't know what the whole specificity, I mean, if you run away from a test, it's like a failure. And I'm not saying she ran away, but she probably, and then I think she kind of said this, is she was too late with her test. They probably said, okay, you've got to do it by such and such a date, and for whatever reason, she missed the deadline.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, very, very, very strange story, that one. There's definitely more to that, I think, than obviously what we're hearing.
There has to be in some way, doesn't there?
Also with TNA, Dave, Brandi Runnels coming in as a knockout. Does that mean that Cody might perhaps show up there as well? Or again, is it a money thing? Can they not afford him?
Well, Cody, his goal is to work TNA, with him and his wife against the Bennetts. But Cody's, unless something's changed in the last couple of weeks, Cody's goal also was to not sign with anyone. He just wanted to come in and freelance with them. Mm-hmm. I know he's got, it's tricky because he's got, he's starting with Ring of Honor at Bound for Glory, but he's got probably, I think, well, I don't know.
Well, you said he's starting with Ring of Honor at Bound for Glory. You mean,
at Final Battle.
Final Battle, okay.
Right. He's starting at Final Battle in December. I'm getting all mixed up because of these two different companies. Yeah. So, and he's got a lot of dates with Ring of Honor. So I know his goal is to work for both, but those groups don't want someone working for the other. So he's in a very, I don't know how it's all going to shake out, but I know that's what he wants, and he definitely wants to do the feud in TNA with the Bennett. So he's hoping to do both.
A big story that popped up yesterday, Dave, was in regards to Terry Funk saying goodbye to the audience at the House of Hardcore show. Do we know the latest on, because a lot of questions came up in regards to his health and how he didn't want to leave the ring, but then after he was smiling and he was okay, what's going on with Terry Funk? Do we have an update here?
I've been gone all day. I actually called him as soon as I woke up because I was kind of frantic about that. But so I don't know anything for sure that, there's definitely an issue and people were worried, and people are worried. I'm worried. Terry has had some. I know he's either gotten or needed hernia surgery because that was the last time I talked to him. We were talking about that, and hopefully whatever it is. Hey, I don't know. I just know that like last night I'm watching the UFC and I'm getting texts from people in Philadelphia that were there, and they're just going like that they were very, very concerned. Everyone's concerned about Terry, and it's just like, oh man. Well, I hope there's nothing bad going on.
Well, the guy is a survivor, right? Like, I mean, Terry Funk, you watched what you saw in Beyond the Mat, and you thought that was the end. I mean, and the guy's still going. So, if anything, the guy's a survivor.
Well, I'll tell you what. If you watched, the thing in Beyond the Mat that I'll always remember is when the doctor examined his knees.
Yeah.
And they said that you shouldn't be walking, and he go, like. With the knees, the state they were in, he shouldn't even been able to walk. And here it is 20 years later.
Yeah.
He did end up getting his knees done. But, I mean, still, it was probably 10 years, 15 years before he got his knees done. And he not only continued to walk, but he continued to have great wrestling matches.
Yeah, it's crazy. And even I watched the footage from last night, and even him walking to the ring and getting in the ring, you couldn't really tell from anything there. He certainly looked fine walking and getting in the ring.
Yeah, I mean, I know he wrestled Lawler a couple of months ago, and I saw that match, and, I mean, it was, for what it was actually kind of amazing. If you think about that, one guy was, Lawler 65, 66, and the other one was 71 at the time. It's like, I mean, they know, between the two of them, they know every trick of the trade, but it was still like, it was still amazing that they had a match as good as they did.
Yeah.
This week, Dave, also we had Vince McMahon come down with an injury, or at least have some sort of surgery in regards to a torn quad. They put out a release saying the chairman would be back in the office the day after surgery. Do we know if that actually happened?
I don't know. I don't know if he was in the office, but I just remember that when that happened, somebody from UFC called me and said that, like, it's another parallel when Dana White had surgery. This is a couple of years ago, and they took his ear off. He had an ear disease, and then they sewed the ear back on, and he was in the office the next day, and everybody's going like, what is he doing here? And I think, and they were just joking to me, like, he's just like Vince in the sense that he's going to, like, it's ridiculous for him to go, but he's going to go just so everyone says, oh, he was in the office the next day after his surgery, even though it's ridiculous. If torn quad surgery, come on.
It's insane, especially for a 70-year-old man as well.
Yeah. That's a bad injury. I mean, he had two of them
again. Royal Rumble
11 years ago, and he did recover. But it took him months to recover. It wasn't like he was like all well and good in 3 weeks.
Finally, Dave, before we go here, tomorrow night we're going to see the Cruiserweights pop onto Monday Night Raw. If you were booking this, how would you introduce the Cruiserweights tomorrow night?
I haven't really thought of it, but I think that probably I would want to do a single and a tag. The tag just to get some guys exposure, and the single to focus on building one of the guys, whoever it would be, to get the shot at T.J. Perkins for the championship at the pay-per-view on Sunday. So, but I would introduce them with video features and promo after their matches, and make it like a real highlight of the show, not just kind of throw it in late in the third hour in that death spot. And tomorrow's really important because if they don't make a big deal out of it, honestly, I think that it might be doomed from the start because it's either going to be like it's either going to be really huge and a success and they go in there with great matches, or they're going to present it as filler. And if they present it as filler, I mean, we've seen cruiserweights as filler before. We already know what happens.
Yeah,
there.
on those days of Nitro, exactly. But I'm guessing they
Nitro
have all...
and WWE.
Yeah, they have all those features that they did for the Cruiserweight Classic. Just show some of those again and show them throughout the show. It doesn't seem to be that hard to do.
I think it's easy, and the guys they've got enough guys that are really talented. I mean, the matches in the Cruiserweight Classic on the Cruiserweight show were better than the matches on Raw by a long shot.
Yeah.
So there's no reason you can't go in there and present like a 13-minute match with Grand Metalik or somebody like that, any of them against each other, where they'll just go out there and tear the house down. I mean, they can. We've seen it. They just got to be able. But if they're going out there and they do 3 minutes and it's over and done, then it won't work as well.
Well, and we have to know who they are. If they go out and do long, then it's and that if they don't introduce them, it's no good either.
Yeah, no, it's got to be. It shouldn't be early in the show. It should be built up for like about 2 hours or something like that, and maybe and then presented. When they present it, it should be like, this is like it. This is a big deal. Like a key part of the show. And again, that's they have to. If they don't do it, it'll wind up not working.
Dave, we got to go, but what's coming up quickly in the Observer?
Good question. I mean, coverage of the shows this week and whatever else. Hopefully, I don't have any great feature ideas. I mean, there was one. I don't know. I mean, just
all right.
The news. I wrote a feature on the Legends Night at Arena Mexico, and I'll probably do something on Japan and things like that. But nothing out of the ordinary, which scares me to death because that means something's
going to
happen
break
soon.
Tuesday.